Hello, my name is Joanne Knight. Welcome to the barn. Today we're going to talk about repeat patterns a little bit more. I am a student of Creative Studio just like you are, and there is always something to learn whenever you are playing with this machine. So I'd like to pass along a couple of items for you as regards to repeat patterns. So let's go. I told you in my Edge to Edge Easy video that it's really important with repeat patterns to go to Service, Technical Support, Controller Definitions, and change your reference point from Start Point to Upper Left, because Upper Left is the most recognizable point on the quilt. So I'm going to hit File, Save, and Close. Another one of my good Statler habits is to start a new quilt group. And I have done that in this quilt group right here. And I have drawn a boundary so that I can see what the sewable area of my quilt is. Look at this new little pattern right here by Tammy Overland. Whenever you look at that, you might think that's a really pretty pattern. Look what happens to this pattern and how it transforms when I set it up in repeat patterns. I'm going to close this and I'm going to left click on repeat patterns and I'm going to left click a point on the screen just to place that first pattern, and it is my upper left, which is the upper left of my boundary. I'm going to close some of these setup boxes and we're going to say that my quilt size is 50 inches. That's what my sewable boundary is. And we're going to say that my height of my quilt is 56 inches. This is one of the things I want you to notice about this pattern. Look how cool it is that the first row is a vertical and the second is a horizontal, and then it switches back to vertical again. That's all built into this one pattern because you see that is one pattern, but it's really cool the way it switches back and forth. My trick for you here is it is always best to change the pattern size first if you decide that you don't like the density of the pattern. And I do that by changing my grid size to 1 inch and scrolling in to see if I like what this density is. If, however, you don't change this to start with and you decide that you really do want more density, Creative Studio defaults to the size as locked. So I'm going to keep that total size locked and I'm going to click on More Repeats. And you can see that the pattern is getting more dense as I go along. It's best if you add rows as well as repeats because you don't really want to distort the pattern any. But that's a real easy way for you to check and make sure that your density is correct on that pattern if you should forget to change the pattern size first. You can see that it changed the size of the pattern, but it still kept my 50 by 56 inches. If I left click on a different pattern, I still have my 50 by 56 inches, but I'm going to add additional repeats to this one. And that's going to make that pattern more dense. I do find, like I said, that it is best to add not only repeats, but add rows because that keeps your pattern nice and symmetrical. So that's the first little tip for you. I'm going to say cancel. Now I'm going to show you something on modern patterns, and I'm going to choose this wavy pantograph pattern by Kim Diamond. If I hit my letter P on my keyboard, you can see that that pattern is designed to be 80.6 inches wide. And we already talked about that I only have 50 inches here. If I select the pattern and I go to repeat patterns and I place the first one on the screen, it's going to obviously be longer than what my boundary is or wider than what my boundary is. So I'm going to close some of these boxes up, and I can tell Creative Studio to lock the repeats and rows and just give myself extra rows. What this does is mean that I'm going to have to use fill on every roll of the quilt. I'm going to go back and tell it to give me just one again. lock my height and total width. Now I'm going to put in 50 inches, move my mouse to the screen, and what I have done is made the pattern fit whatever my boundary is. I'm going to change this to, we'll say 47 inches this time. And now I have my pattern cut off without going back and doing a fill on every single one of them. Left click on a different pattern and it will change to that pattern. Left click on a different pattern and it will change to that pattern. So this is what happens whenever you tell Creative Studio, I need you to do the work for me. If you have a pattern that has a very definite geometric shape, like these stars right here, or the ovals or the circles in a particular pattern, you want to be careful whenever you do that. Creative Studio doesn't distort that pattern. In that case, you might be better off going back and doing your fill on each of the rows. But with a lot of these modern patterns and these linear patterns, let me go back to 5 inches so you can see a little better. A lot of these patterns will be pretty symmetrical, and whenever you use them, then you can easily go in and tell Creative Studio to give you whatever your total size is and let it cut that off. I think that's going to be a whole lot easier to do as you roll the quilt and as you go down the quilt rather than to do the fill inside. Just a couple of little tricks for you on repeat patterns that I thought might be helpful for you. Thank you.